Detroit Become Human is the fifth game from the developers Quantic Dream under the leadership of director and writer David Cage. With Quantic Dream's reputation on making story-driven cinematic titles, it has certainly become one of my favorite developers over the past decade, and I'm happy to confirm that Detroit Become Human completes a trilogy of worthy PlayStation exclusive titles following Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. The story for our game takes place in the year 2038 in the city of Detroit, and humanized androids are just as common as smartphones are today, and humans can use them for any number of personal needs. The story focuses around three androids, which are Connor, who is an advanced prototype sent to assist the local law enforcement, specifically to investigate cases involving deviant androids. Marcus starts off as a helper android who cares for an elderly painter named Carl Manfred, and Kara acts as a simple maid serving within the home of an abusive father. Now, before I go any further with the plot, I must say that this is without question the most expansive story-driven title that Quantic Dreams has ever created, because your choices will literally dictate the path in which your particular story will be driven. Any one of the three main characters can be killed off really early and really suddenly, and that can have major effects on events that could play out throughout the game. Each individual character has their own trials that they must decide on how they will play out. Connor's trials involve him having to decide what is more important, serving the mission and taking down his fellow androids, or perhaps you could choose for him to want to join the deviants and become an individual of his own. Kara's trial deals with the idea of an android needing to protect a little girl named Alice and deciding how far Kara is willing to go to get Alice to a place where she can feel safe. As for Marcus, whose own trial seems to have the closest ties to the overall main focus of the game's plot, must decide how the androids should respond to the oppression of the humans. Should they try peaceful means, or try to take a more violent path? The overarching issue that the game is trying to get across is whether or not androids should be seen as another form of intelligent life, or simply as tools meant to be used by humans how we decide. And that very statement alone really brings a different experience between gamers who have different viewpoints on the topic. If you choose to follow your own personal views on the subject, you may be very surprised by the consequences of your actions and choices. Now, as much as I would like to praise David Cage on putting so much thought and effort into this title, Detroit Become Human unfortunately is my most least interesting game plot-wise that I have played from Quantic Dreams, simply because I believe that this title was simply used to show off the personal beliefs of David Cage on this particular matter. I've heard from several others that I've spoken to about Detroit Become Human that this game really penalizes and vilifies you for choosing decisions that side with the humans rather than the androids, and I feel that that is a bit unfair. This game's plot also gets a bit too ambitious, trying to view this type of situation being on par with something like the civil rights movement, even going so far as to take quotes and messages that one would expect to hear from figures like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And even for me, being a black African American male, some of these moments had me rolling my eyes and saying, "Is he serious?" This is not like Heavy Rain, where it is simply a crime thriller centered around saving a child and finding out who the origami killer is, or like Beyond Two Souls, which is a story about a young girl having to grow up with an active spirit that must do all it can to help and protect her. I have never enjoyed games that tried to go all political or tried to force someone else's belief on me, and despite this game having such great writing at times and having so much depth, this flaw story-wise is unavoidable, but that still does not stop the story from being a very fascinating story to explore through. Gameplay-wise, there is actually very little of it, and it plays more closely to something like Heavy Rain, where you simply control each character from a specific location and can interact with both NPCs and objects. When talking to NPCs, during conversations, your responses have the opportunity to have a character like or dislike you depending on your responses, and this certainly can have an effect on key moments and actions throughout the game. I would say that Connor's gameplay-wise has the most functions because, being a detective, he can scan crime scenes, and he even has a function similar to that was in the Batman Arkham games, where you can actually recreate a crime scene and see exactly what happened. Or in some cases, you can plan out specific complicated action scenarios in order to execute the proper outcome. During action set pieces, you will have to react through a series of QuickTime events, and it is extremely important that you pay attention and react properly, as even the single mistake can result in your character's death. One element that I must give Quantic Dreams serious credit for is going out of their way to utilize the speaker and touchpad on the PlayStation 4 controller, as this is a function that I don't really see many games take advantage of. At the end of each chapter, you will be shown a flowchart that not only shows you all of the different ways your particular chapter could have played out, but it shows you the percentage of other players that have decided their playthrough of the chapter. Design and presentation wise, Detroit Become Human is absolutely gorgeous to look at and is without question one of the best looking games that has ever been created. The attention to detail on not just the characters but the environments is incredible, and you can really tell the developers spent a lot of time wanting to get the overall look of this game down to the finest detail. The performances from all the actors throughout the game were simply wonderful, and it's really titles like this that prove that game design can certainly be seen as an art form, as the production level for a title like this easily rivals some of the most impressive production films in Hollywood. The soundtrack is also amazing, and the composers did a really great job making the music feel as close to modern settings as they could. One would expect that a story focusing around androids would have a much more future technological sound to it, but this one has so much more emotion put into the music that you can tell that the music was meant to go hand in hand with the actions taking place in the game, and some moments were really meant to pull on your heartstrings, and that certainly did happen to me a few times throughout my playthrough. Now in conclusion, I really enjoyed playing Detroit Become Human. This continues the long line of great PlayStation exclusive titles that has come out this generation, and I say that it is a solid follow-up to the last two installments from Quantic Dreams. Now, with me being a story-driven gamer, this is absolutely the type of game that I would recommend for my friends and viewers that are also story-driven gamers like me. But I will admit that this isn't for everyone because there is very little actual gameplay. Now, I will admit that due to the political beliefs and somewhat propaganda, that does sort of hold it back, and story-wise did kind of hurt my experience, but I think that because it was executed so well, it is absolutely worth the try, and if you can at least get a good amount of enjoyment, it is worth several playthroughs just to see how certain events would have played through. Now, having said that, I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I want to give this an 8 or 7.5, simply because I've seen what this game has done, but the execution I've seen done better. Would I say this is better than Heavy Rain? Probably not. It's kind of the inverse of Beyond Two Souls because I really like the gameplay and the story for that, but I just hated how it was executed. And I think the overall presentation that this game has pulled off is vastly superior than any other game that has come out over the past number of years. So having said that, I'm going to be nice because it is a PlayStation exclusive and I am a story-driven gamer. I'm going to give Detroit Become Human an 8 out of 10. Again, I don't recommend this for everyone, but if this is something you are curious about and you are willing to give it a chance, then I would say pick it up and give it a go. Now, if you like my game review for Detroit Become Human, please like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check me out my future videos, and please press one of the links in the description down below to follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook to keep track of me and my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching, you're awesome, and I'll see you next time.